Hello, I am live. I hope y'all can see me. I don't see anyone yet, but I'm hoping you can see me. And I'm going to do something strange, which is go on Instagram Live at the same time on my phone. Let's see how that's going to work. We are going live as well here. Yes. Okay. I think you guys can see me. Hi, everyone. Hi, my No Filter family. Hi, my Facebook people. Hi, my YouTube people. I'm going to go on Facebook to make sure that I see myself so we can get started. I see myself. Okay. And my face is super big. That's a good sign. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Please come on in, share the live, participate. I see a ton of people on Instagram. Hi, everyone. Hi, guys. Thank you for coming to this fantastic show where we're going to talk about renewal with a twist. And the twist is we're going to see how we can transform our fears into faith and how we can overcome them. Okay? So I want to make sure that everybody is here. Everybody can see me well. Let's make a little change in the visual. I don't think that's the visual we want, right? I see some of you guys on Facebook. Hi, how are you? Hi, Beltos. Thank you for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, my chat is here. Hey, girl. Hey, girl. How are you? Hey, Louis. How are you? Thank you for being here. And basically, everybody who's here, please understand. Hello, Jacques. Thank you for being here. First of all, please understand that you guys are going to participate today. So this is not like me talking the whole time because we're going to talk about something deep. We're going to talk about fear and we're going to talk about how this impacts a lot of us, right? We're on Facebook. Yes. So that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to let a few people in. I want to make sure that I can see who's on, but I can't really see. But I think we're just gonna go with it. I think we're gonna go with it. I don't see my girls, so they're not really giving me like the what's happening behind the scenes, but I think we can make it work. Okay? I think we can make it work. I want to make sure that my visual is okay. First of all, hi, for the people who don't know me, my name is Anne-Christie Guillaume, and I am the founder of the School of Superpowers. In collaboration with No Filter Channel, we're putting this show together to bring you some content. My objective, the objective of the School of Superpowers, is to help humanity evolve. And No Filter Channel as well, their objective is to help humanity evolve. So now we partnered to put content in front of you. One of the themes that we've been discussing is renewal. Okay. Hi, Alan. Nice to see you. So one of the themes that we're discussing is renewal. And as we're discussing renewal, I made a twist. I used a twist. So last week's show, we presented renewal in general, what it is, what it represents, and what it means. But now this time we're saying, okay, what can we renew? So I'm inviting us to look at our fears that we can renew into faith, right? Because who wants to stay stuck in fear, right? So let's go deep and let's talk about it because I think each one of us, every one of us has a relationship with fear, okay? So let's go back and understand what fear is. You know how I am. This is the School of Superpowers. We go to the definitions of things. We don't just make up stuff and then, we don't make up stuff. So as I was reading the actual definition of fear, it really dawned on me of how we still don't have a real understanding of what fear is. And as I'm going through the definition, you will see what I'm talking about. Hello, Nana. Thank you for being here. I see you. I see you. So, fear is an emotional response to a perceived threat. This threat can be real or imagined. meaning fear can arise from actual dangers, like a physical threat, or a perceived threat, like social rejection or failure. So please notice how I did not say fake fear, like something that is not real. Because although fear may be imagined, it is very much real in the sense that you have the physical sensation of fear, because if you have a fear of social rejection or a fear of failure. So although these are not physical danger, they are still perceived dangers in our minds. And so our body has an emotional response. And so we need to embrace that. We don't shouldn't tell people, oh, you shouldn't be afraid because it's not a lion is not attacking you, but that's not the case, right? So honor the imagined fears in your life that hold you back. So that's one thing that I learned here. Fear can also be physical or psychological. So it can be triggered by physical stimuli, like a loud sound or a dangerous situation, or by psychological factors, like anxiety about the future or past trauma. Hey, Lewis West, thank you for joining. Nice to see you here. So again, we're talking about fear and faith, right? So as I'm going in, please guys jump in and tell me which one of those things sound like the type of fear that you connect with, right? I think to some degree we connect with all of them, but let's analyze for ourselves the one that resonates the most with us today, right? And I'll share with you where I am in my journey with fear. Okay. So fear can be real or imagined. Again, when we say imagine, we're not saying fake. Okay. So we have to honor the imagined fears that we have in our lives, physical or psychological. So psychological can be things like anxiety about the future or past trauma, right? So now you have psychological fear because of something that happened to you in the past that is now making you fearful. Or fear can be immediate or anticipatory. So immediate meaning something is actually happening right now, sudden reaction, a sudden action, danger, or it can be more anticipatory. So feeling of a potential future threat. So you see where we're going with this. So we're defining fear as something that is real, but I'm inviting us to now embrace the definition of fear in places that again we don't necessarily value, because fear of rejection, I should be able to deal with it as easily because it's not a physical fear. It's not a fear of me being physically in danger. So I want us to put all of that on the same playing field. Hi, Marika-san. Thank you for joining. We just started. We're going through the definition of fear because, again, before we talk about something, we have to all agree as to what we're talking about. I'm not asking you to agree with my definition, but we're going to state the definition. That's what we're going to utilize for this talk, right? If you have anything else you want to add, please feel free. Use the chat feature. I'm looking at Instagram right now, Facebook, and YouTube. If I'm missing something, please let me know, okay? So, immediate or anticipatory. Fear can be sudden, an immediate reaction to present danger, or a lingering anticipatory feeling, okay? Some of the physical manifestation, just so that we can remember, because again, at the School of Superpowers, one thing that we do is we help you, we encourage people to embrace everything that's going on. So in no place am I going to tell you reject fear. Fear is bad. There's no bad, there's no good. It has to do with how you utilize those things when they come on in your life. So there's nothing bad or nothing good if you look at it from that perspective, right? So what are the physiological manifestations? Again, it's for us to identify, hey, frame of class, thank you for the comment. I want us to learn how to identify those things now, right? So fear is manifested in that way. Hey, Brad, thank you for joining. I'm here. I'm glad you're here. Marvis, glad you're joining. We're talking about fear and we're defining it, right? Again, you can have an increase in your heart rate and breathing, muscle tension, sweating, dilated pupils, and a release of adrenaline. So these are the physical manifestations of fear, okay? And some of the psychological impact of fear. Now that you're dealing with fear, what's the impact of dealing with fear? Gilbert Pierre, stress is a manifestation of. Gilbert, thank you for joining. Your sentence is incomplete, sir. The the psychological impact of fear. Now, it's anxiety and worry. That's me. I was talking to one of my good friends today, and I and I And I discovered that I deal with anxiety, right? I didn't even know, but I had to kind of really look at myself and understand, oh, this is the manifestation of anxiety in my life. But before that, I thought I was fine. Okay. So, anxiety and worry, this is how it manifests in your life. Avoidance of certain situations or activities. I have some friends who are avoiders and they're right there on the live right now, right? Avoiders, nothing wrong. It's not if you're an avoider, you're not the bad one, okay? Because we're all the bad ones or the good ones. So avoidance of certain situations or activities, or so that's how it manifests. I'm fearful, so now I'm just staying away. I'm just staying away from this stuff. I'm staying away from this, right? Irrational thoughts and beliefs. Some people just sit there and they make themselves feel fearful. They make themselves get scared, right? So that's what we're talking about. You can have difficulty concentrating. So if you're not able to concentrate, now this is going to be an impact of fear in your life. And some sleep disturbances. That has happened to me a few times in the past few, let's say, year, where I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm unable to identify how I feel. And it's through self reflection that I'm able to identify, hey, this is how I feel. I want to take a step back, guys. Why is it that I keep talking about those topics that are not really sexy? Okay, it's not. It's not talking about fear. It's not sexy. But here's why it's important. We are learning things that were not taught to us when we were kids. I bet that 95% of y'all on this call were not taught these things. So we're putting this platform together so we can learn together. So we can get out of the not knowing and not understanding ourselves. Because remember, our objective is to become better human beings, is to evolve. And in order to evolve, you have to self-master. You have to master yourself. You have to know thyself. You have to know yourself. How do you know yourself? Is through observation and through understanding and learning and sharing and then discovering, right? So when I'm taking the word of fear, because I know for me growing up, I would hear a lot of times, boys are not supposed to be fearful. Boys are supposed to be strong, as if fear is a bad thing. Or people would say things like, what are you afraid of? What's wrong about this? Wow, what are you afraid of? People judge us for fear. And we are ashamed of sharing or telling people that we are fearful as if something is wrong with us because we're sharing that we have fear inside of us. And please, those low-key people who judge others, making us believe that they're fear. I have a friend like that. He's like, "Oh, I don't fear nothing, like nothing." But that's impossible because you're human. It means that something's detached in you. You're probably a sociopath or a psycho, something like that. Like there's something else going on with you if you don't have any relationship with fear. If you're not even able to identify. I wanted to pull a story today, a Hitler story, but I'm going to leave it for next week. And I'm going to make sure that I have a guest with me next week so we can dig deeper. But I want to tell you how fear manifests in some of the people that we know a lot, but the people who are on the wrong side of history, like Hitler, like Papa Doc in Haiti, these people, their identity was fear. And then so you can see what fear does to people when it's not managed. But you will see that in my examples as well. So I kind of wanted to take a step back and remind us of why we're going deep and just doing like almost like word problems, right? We're going back and trying to understand what these words are. Okay, so now we understand what fear is. But please, let's go back to what the purpose of fear is, meaning when scientists analyzed and understood what the purpose was or what it was used for, right? So what its use, not what you do with it, but what is its use, what is its purpose, they discovered that fear had two objectives. It was for protection because it alerts us that a danger is coming and it helps us avoid it. So when you feel fear is to, oh, there's a danger. But in another thing that fear does, it helps you survive. It triggers the fight or flight or freeze, okay, response, which prepares us to deal with threats. So if you don't have fear, you're like, to do, and the danger is coming to you. You're not even able to register. Again, that's why I'm not really for medication. Hey, I'm not telling anybody to not take their medication. If your doctor is prescribing you medication, please take it. I'm not a doctor. I cannot provide you with medical advice. This is purely my opinion. But what I'm saying is when it comes to medication, be careful because it doesn't allow you to, unless you have active therapy, you're taking medication alongside a therapist, it becomes very difficult for you to develop a relationship with fear and anxiety and stress, because you don't even know how, when it arises in your body, and you don't deal with it when it arises, because those medications, they push it down, push it away, and you don't feel it anymore. It blocks the sensation. Hi, Maggie. Thank you for Maggie Lovely. Thank you for joining. I'm glad you're here. We haven't started a long time, so you're right on time. So again, fear is to protect and to survive. That is the objective. Now we're going to look at how we use fear, right? Because if we use fear for their purpose, then we are on point. Then we're doing a good job. But what happens is when we don't use fear for the right reasons, that when it's becoming what? Debilitating, persistent. Before we continue, please, guys, everybody who's on Facebook, please share the live. Share, 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 share. I should have done that myself as well, but I cannot do everything. I'm here with y'all. I'm present. So if anybody wants to share the Facebook with the groups that they're part of, I would love that. Okay. So let's continue. So when does fear become problematic? We just said that fear is to survive and to protect, nothing else. So when does it become problematic? It becomes problematic when it becomes irrational or excessive, when it is triggered by situations that pose no real threats. So if you think about somebody who has PTSD, who came from war, right? A guy can be sitting at or a woman sitting at a restaurant. They hear a loud noise and they jump on the floor. They think they're in war, and then it triggers all sorts of things for them. That's what you call a situation that poses no real threat, yet you are fearful of it. When fear is persistent, I always tell people that those feelings or emotions are not good or bad, but anything that persists is what you need to pay attention to, because technically everything comes and everything goes. Even feelings of joy, everything comes, everything goes. So anything that persists, you need to pay attention to it, because there's probably a dysregulation somewhere. So when fear persists, it lingers long after the perceived threat has passed. So there's no more fear, but you still feel like you're just generally fearful. Or fear can be debilitating, meaning when it interferes with our daily lives and prevents us from achieving our goals. So now I know I'm saying that a lot of us are here. You have goals, you have dreams, you have objectives, but fear stops you from moving forward. So now you're dealing with debilitating fear. Is the fear that you're feeling if we go back to the definition of fear, where we say it's supposed to help you with protection and survival, but then you have a goal and you cannot accomplish the goal because you're fearful of it. So you realize how fear is actually debilitating, because it's stopping you from achieving a goal that you have. But now you're going to ask me, okay, Anne-Christie, it's really well said, but then what do? I'm still fearful, and I do not know how to move forward. I am fearful. I don't know how to move forward. Well, that's what we're going to tackle. We're going to analyze. We're going to see what other people have done. People who are succeeding, people who have a positive, productive relationship with fear. And we're going to try to learn from them. My son would say, "Well, mommy, you're copying this person." I said, "But I absolutely copy people who do the right thing." So that's what we're doing. We're going to copy on people, because that is how we learn and we grow with each other for ourselves. Okay. So again, please share the live. Let me get a gulp of my tea. Okay. So here's where we are. And notice how I'm sticking and talking about fear, because as I'm talking, I want everybody to feel the fear. As I'm talking, I don't want us to, when is she going to stop talking about fear to talk about the good stuff? No, one of the things that you can do to help you process something is by acknowledging its presence inside of you and feeling it. So you and I, all of us, Marie Casson, Marvis, Brad, Gilbert, Louis, Jacques, Berthoz, everyone, feel it, right? Naomi, Nana, everybody, Alain, feel the feeling of fear. Feel what you feel inside right now. So now we're going to go through different types of fears. And I want you guys to not be like, "Oh, that's not me. That's not me." No, please find one that is you, because then you're going to have an opportunity to transmute it as we're talking on the live. That is the point. So take an opportunity, grab onto one of the fears that you have as I'm going to go through the list, and then we're going to be able to transmute it together. Okay. We're going to do it all together. So there are different types of fears. There's physical fears, so related to bodily harm, meaning I feel like something is going to happen to me, to my physical body. You have fear of heights. It's called acrophobia. I'm not going to try to pronounce that in English. Then you have fear of enclosed spaces, right? Claustrophobia, right? We know that. Again, also develop some empathy. Oh, I'm not claustrophobic. Okay, but somebody else is. So now try to understand the feeling. Try to connect with it anyway. Try to empathize with it. Okay. You also have fear of animals. Some people actually, I have a family member who's afraid of animals. And I used to say, oh my God, this person is so ridiculous. But in fact, they're not ridiculous. They are afraid of animals, and that's their fear. Fear of injury or pain. Some people feel that something is going to happen to them. They feel like they're going to get an injury. They feel like they're afraid of the pain that's coming, and the fear of death. So these are all the physical body sensations related to fear, right? We're talking about fear of bodily harm. But there's also social fear. So again, I don't want us to diminish, physical fear is more important than social fears. Well, social fear is more important than emotional fears. No, because everybody has a relationship with them. You just need to find yours, okay? I don't personally have a lot of physical fears. I don't have a fear of heights, of enclosed spaces, of animals, of being injured, or I do have a fear of pain. I lie. I have a big, big fear of pain. And Christy is constantly running away from pain. And if you're a little bit, smart, you can see where that can lead me, right? So now we also have some social fears. Fear of public speaking. I don't have no fear of public speaking, but I can understand that somebody else has that fear. Fear of social situations, like social anxiety disorder. A lot of people go through that. Some people have the fear of rejection. Men, women, you're abandoned by your parent, you didn't have your childhood, etc., etc. So now you have a fear of rejection. That's a real fear that paralyzes people, that affects relationships, that stops relationships from growing. You also have the fear of judgment. I think a lot of us have it, especially in the world that we live in, the social media world, where there's only one body type that's good. There's only one hair type that's good. There's only one facial shape that's good, right? So we live in this society where judgment has taken a different toll. And so a lot of people who didn't even have the fear of judgment are starting to have that fear of judgment. But again, don't fret. Don't judge yourself for having a fear that you didn't have, because all of that is part of life. The moment that you know how to clean it off your skin, clean it off yourself, then you're fine. And that's what we're learning right now. Okay? Fear of confrontation. That's a big deal. Some people are fearful of confrontation. So they will just go zoom, zoom, zoom like this with you, and then, not really be speaking clearly because they're afraid of confrontation. Okay? Now you also have some emotional, psychological fears. You have the fear of failure. A lot of us go through that. I know I have that, but I also have the fear of winning. That's a big fear I have. Fear of the unknown. One of my friends said that to me today. Fear of the unknown. If I don't know what's happening, I'm fearful of it. Well, if you get anxiety about what's uncertain and what's coming. You can also have the fear of losing control. And by the way, I hope that one of you guys noticed why I'm decided to wear red today. This is the color of fear, but this is also the color of the first chakra, which represents safety. So the same place that fear exists is in the same place that safety exists. It's the same energy that needs to be transmuted. So this is the color of fear, but this is also the color of safety. So that's why I'm wearing red today. Everything is red. I wanted to do red lipstick, but I thought that would be a bit much, right? I think. Fear of the unknown. Fear of losing control. That is me. Fear of losing control. I feel super anxious about not being able to manage situations. If I'm not able to manage a situation, I get fearful, and it's not good for me. Fear of intimacy. A lot of men deal with that. Fear of being close. But women go through that too, okay? But fear of intimacy, fear of being the closeness with someone. Fear of letting somebody see you for who you really are, because that's what intimacy does. Intimacy does not show people how great you look. Intimacy shows people how probably terrible you are, all the terrible parts of you, because now you're close. They can see, it's like somebody looking through your pores and they see all the imperfections on your skin. It's the same thing that intimacy does. So people have a fear of that. There's a feelings of unworthiness and things like this that makes them feel this way. Fear of making mistakes. Some people are like, oh my God, I'd rather not do it because it has to be perfect. I'm afraid of making mistakes because I'm afraid of being judged, because because I want to look good, because of all these things. And people go through those things. So these are emotional and psychological fears. You also have existential fears. Fear of meaninglessness, meaning, oh my God, I'm living a life that means nothing. Am I going to live my life and die and not ever find the meaning of my life? Is my life is supposed to be this boring? Is that really what life is about? Should I just go and die? Because am I dying like this? People have fear. People have a fear of that. I have a fear of meaninglessness. I want my life to be great. So the moment I'm confronted with the ordinary of my life, I get scared. I get scared. Oh my gosh. So the fear of meaninglessness, a lot of us have that. We don't even recognize it. Fear of isolation, feeling alone in the universe. I'm not understood. I'm alone. What I'm going through, I'm by myself. Nobody else is going through what I'm going through, etc., etc., etc. The fear of the vastness of the universe. You're overwhelmed by the scale and mystery of the existence. You feel small and you feel unimportant. And you also have some learned fears, right? The fear of specific places, right? Following a bad experience. Let's say you went to Jamaica, you had a bad experience, so now you're afraid of Jamaica. This is a learned fear. Or fear of certain sounds, right? You had a gunshot, somebody shot in your house at one point or something like that. So every time you hear that loud noise, you're afraid of loud noises because of that, right? And then phobia is related to past events. Any past event can generate fear, okay? So we went through it. We went through all the fears. Some of them, the big items. But all I'm trying to say is let's develop empathy for the world and compassion for ourselves, to understand that we all have fears. It doesn't make you less of a man, less of a woman, less successful, less attractive, less desirable because you have fears. And somebody who's fearless, that does not exist. You can have moments of fearlessness, but nobody is inherently fearless, especially when you start having life experiences. So now the question is, what do we do with all this fear? Now I have all this fear. What do I do with it? I'm just going to sit and be miserable all the time? What am I going to do with it? Well, that's why we're talking about renewal. Remember what we said renewal was. I'm not going to go deep into it. If you want to really have a better understanding of the word renewal and what it means, and we went deep, look at the previous show from 2 weeks ago, and we went deep into renewal and what it actually means. Right now, this is for us to utilize the knowledge of renewal to see how we can utilize renewal to transmute fear into something more productive. So again, just high level, renewal means rebirth, rejuvenation, transformation, restoration, and resilience. So this is the vibe. This is the vibe of renewal. It's something new, transforming, something coming up, something becoming something else. So now we're going to use renewal, and then we're going to transform it into faith. So I'm giving you the layout of the land, and then we're going to go into some stories. So I spoke about fear all day long. And I'm saying that the antidote to fear is faith. The antidote to fear, so humor me for a moment, right? I'm going to prove to you that the antidote to fear is faith. So for now, take it, right? Take it, believe that that's the case, and then you'll tell me if I made the point or not. Okay? Faith is a complex and multifaceted concept. It varies in interpretation, etc. But in general, the core definitions remain the same. The key aspects of faith are belief. Faith involves holding a conviction about something, whether it's a religious doctrine, a personal philosophy, or a belief in one's own abilities. So when I say faith, I'm talking about belief. Belief in your abilities, or belief in a doctrine, a religious doctrine, but believing in something. Faith also means trust. So it entails that you're placing trust in something or someone, even when there is uncertainty or risk involved. Example, you're getting married to someone, you're getting into a new relationship, and you want to bring it to the next level. And now you're saying, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to trust you, even though I believe that there's a risk that you may fail. So now I'm not trusting you because you are trustworthy necessarily. I'm giving you trust as this is me having faith that this is possible, that it's possible for me to be in a healthy relationship with you. So let me go ahead and trust you. So now you can understand all the issues when trust is broken, blah, 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 because the person actually gave it to you for free. You didn't have to work for it. So trust. It also has to do with confidence. The faith fosters a sense of confidence and assurance, providing a foundation for hope and resilience. Faith is also conviction. It's characterized by a strong sense of conviction, a feeling of certainty that transcends doubt. So it's like you say, I believe this, even though it doesn't seem like it. People, you see the picture that I'm portraying right now? You can already in your life identify the people who have that behavior, who seem to have this conviction that things are actually pretty bad, and they're believing that it's possible, that it's going to be okay. That's what religion does for a lot of people, because religion gives you something that you can hold on to and that you can utilize as a vehicle for confidence and for faith. But please understand that you don't necessarily need religion to cultivate faith in the universe, in God, or in the world, because it's the act of having a conviction that everything is going to be okay, right? Faith also comes through your personal experience, right? For many, faith is deeply rooted in personal experiences, intuition, and spiritual connection. One of my friends admitted to me that he feels like he's an omen. He feels like his intuition is on point. So now look, he has faith in his ability to understand situations that are not necessarily clearly laid out. So although the situation might be murky, even in time of fear, he goes back into his intuition and he relies on it as a compass to move forward. I'm starting to give you all the pointers of what people use to counter fear. Action. That's another thing too. Faith is often demonstrated through actions and behaviors that reflect one's beliefs. Because you have an exam to go for, right? But you're afraid. You're afraid. And you say, oh, I'm going to have faith. No, faith is not going to allow you to. Brad is like, that's me. Brad, I was not trying to give your name, but you outed yourself. Yes, Brad is somebody who has an intuition, and then he chooses to believe that and let that lead his decisions. Although you might look at it and be like, that doesn't make any sense. I don't see the facts there. But it's because he has faith. He chose faith. You have two people in a relationship. I don't know what it is. I choose to believe this man. I choose to believe my man. I have faith in my man. You come to me, you tell me something about my man, I'm going to tell you that's not my man. That's not my man. You come to this guy, you tell him about his wife, he's like, that's not my girl. Because he has faith. So you see the power of faith. Can you look stupid sometimes? Probably, but it doesn't matter. And I'll tell you why it doesn't matter. There's also acceptance. Faith requires a degree of acceptance, right? Whether it's accepting the unknown, for the people who are afraid of the unknown, right? Faith means, okay, I'm accepting that the unknown exists. I'm accepting my own limitations. I'm accepting the course of events. So there's a level of acceptance. So you're accepting what is, but you believe in the possibility of a future that doesn't necessarily exist or doesn't have proof in the de la matière. I don't know how to say that in English. De la matière, it's not real. It's not tangible, right? Okay. So I explained fear. I told you that we're going to use renewal, and then we're going to find faith. So for us who still, okay, Anne-Christie, that sounds good, but then how does it really apply? Now we're going to go through a few quotes. Now that you know the three elements of the equation, fear, the function, the machine, the transformation, the manufacturing plant is the renewal. And then what comes out is fate, right? So that's the equation. So I'm going to give you some quotes, and then you're going to be able to identify and connect these things together. Eleanor Roosevelt. Again, this lady has so many great quotes. I always find profound things. I really want to go, oh, the material, yes. I really want to go deep into what she does. It's fantastic. Anyway, Eleanor Roosevelt. She says, you gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face. You are able to say to yourself, I lived through this horror. I can take the next thing that comes along. You see the equation I just said? Fear, renewal, faith. That's what she did here. She took fear. She says, you will regain your strength, your courage, and your confidence if you choose to look at fear in its eyes. You remember what I said about acceptance for fear? Accepting fear, that's where it lies in what she said. The moment that you can accept fear, you can look at it and you're going to tell yourself, I can get through it. At no point you're going to notice in all these quotes we're saying, oh, eliminate fear, or you will never be fearful anymore if you do these things. No, fear is inherently part of your life. So might as well embrace it, and let's see how we can work with it. Eleanor Roosevelt says the best thing to do with fear is look at it in its face. Remember the example of the buffalo, which is it's such a great analogy, the buffalo example, that I actually have it printed and framed at my house. For the people who don't know the buffalo analogy, if I have some time at the end, I will tell you it. I will tell it to you, right? Another one, Mark Twain. Courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, not absence of fear. Again, those people understand, they understand that there's no reason for you to fight against fear. There is no reason for you to try to eliminate fear. It's for you to resist and master fear. I have one of my friends that I call toxic positive, because it's all about positive, positive. And I said, I used to be like that, but I feel like this becomes toxic positivity. How can you embrace light if you don't embrace darkness? How can you be in love with someone and you only love the good side of them? You refuse to see the other side, because we have a negative relationship with darkness, because we think everything needs to be rosy all the time, because we are debilitated when we're in front of darkness. We don't know what to do. We are fearful of darkness. But how about if we embraced darkness by simply first accepting darkness, right? That's what Mark Twain said. Nelson Mandela said something else. Nelson Mandela, my guy. I'm always going to bring up Nelson Mandela. He said, I learned. Again, these are people who have experienced things and they put it into a sentence for us to take away, right? So let's take that away. Oh, let's take that away. Nelson Mandela. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. Second person who's telling us to conquer our fear, or at least face it. If you're not a soldier, maybe face it, right? I'm going to give you another one. So that's for overcoming fear, right? I want to give you Stephen King, who said something about the nature of fear, right? How he explains fear. Fear can hold you prisoner. Hope can set you free. So these are people who sat and observed the world and observed people and went through their own lives and determined that fear can hold you prisoner. Hope can set you free. How many of you here today fear is keeping prisoner? Give me a show of hands. Give me a thumbs up. Give me an emoji. Give me anything. I know that for me, fear has kept me prisoner. And I am not afraid to admit it, because I choose to stop being pretending like I'm perfect, pretending like I got this, like I'm a strong woman. No, you still have things that are bigger than you. Nana, thank you. Thank you, Nana, for giving me the thumbs up. Jacques, thank you for giving me something. I think I don't see the message, but I see a pop-up. Thank you. Beatrice, thank you. Fear keeps us prisoner. So I'm saying all these beautiful things, but we are still in it. We are fearful, and fear keeps us stuck. How do we get unstuck? Let's continue reading what those people are telling us so we can see how we can get out of it. Susan Jeffers said something. She said, feel the fear and do it anyway. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Thank you, Gayu. Thank you. Feel the fear and do it anyway. So now what we're saying is, please feel your fear. Feel it, but still jump in and do it anyway. They're not asking you to be Tom Cruise. They're not asking you to be like this superhero. But remember, this is the school of superpowers. Why? The moment that you conquer something, it becomes your own superpower. So now I'm inviting you to embrace that superpower that you have. If these people can do it, it means we can do it too. So maybe there is a world where we don't have to be prisoners of our fears anymore, because they're telling you, feel the fear and do it anyway. They're telling you that fear can hold you prisoner, hope can set you free. So now they're giving us the formula, hope. So whenever I'm fearful now, man, I'm in this new relationship and I'm so fearful. I'm going to have faith and believe. I'm going to hope that everything goes well. One of my friends said something today that I thought was so profound. He said something about, why do you think the word spelling is spelling? And we thought about it for a moment and we're like, yeah, because when you say a word, you're casting a spell, because words are real. Hey, me too. I'm happy you're joining. Words can be real. So whatever you say can manifest. So if whatever you say can manifest, and then this person, Stephen King, is like, fear can hold you prisoner, hope can set you free. So now we need to choose hope. We need to choose to say, I'm hopeful. That's not gonna work. Hope for the best, but be ready for anything. Exactly. Hope for the best. Practice saying that. I have a challenge that I started with my son today where I said, we're going to start practicing only saying the things that we want. I am one of the worst people at saying things that I don't want. Oh my gosh. I'm constantly making a whole case about all the things I don't want to happen to me, all the things that I don't want. But then there's a different way. If a word casts a spell, let's say the things that we want instead. How about we did that? That would help us with being more hopeful, which would then help us conquer our fear. Because when you're more hopeful, you have more energy, you have more drive, you have more conviction, and you're able to move forward. But when you stay in the prison of fear and you believe that fear is overshadowing you all the time, then where do you go? Right? Maya Angelou, of course, right? I have learned, again, see how those people are telling you, this is what I've learned, this is what I've observed, this is what I went through. So these are people's experiences that they summarize in a sentence for us to get. I've learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. They all said that. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. We've said the same thing previously. I want to move on to Brené Brown, the shame lady, right? Talks about vulnerability all the time. For people who have a fear of intimacy, for people who love avoiding. Brené Brown said, vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is our greatest measure of courage. Because vulnerability is a fear. I am afraid of being vulnerable. So the moment that I can express that vulnerability, it shows that I'm overcoming that fear, because now I'm going to show you a side of me that may not be attractive. I'm going to show you a side of me that may not be desirable. And I do not control that outcome. That is fear. That is walking into the unknown. So people tend to give you a curated version of themselves, a polished version of themselves. They tend to hide, because they are afraid for you to see the real them, because they believe that they might not be worthy. What you put out in the universe will most likely manifest, so choose wisely. That's what Me Too was saying. Exactly. So now we know this. We're saying this to each other. I'm telling you guys that I'm a culprit, that I don't do this well. And we're faced with the fact that, hey, this is what needs to be done, right? That we do need to accept that fear. And somehow we do need to compose with that fear. We do need to conjugate with that fear, right? I want to give you a story. So the School of Superpowers is just like a traditional Haitian person. We really look at nature to understand ourselves. I'm going to say this, and I always say that all the time. We are at the beginning of humanity's evolution. We are still dealing with poverty, we're dealing with diseases, we're dealing with violence. A friend of mine reminded me today as well. We only use 10% of our brains. Can you imagine when we start using 100% of our brains? We will become different species. Our bodies will transmute if we are able. But right now, with only 10% of our brains, we have been able to do things that we think are grandiose. Are they really that grandiose, though? Grandiose, and then you still have people in poverty, people dying of hunger, and that's grandiose. So now think about if we actually accessed more than the 10%. What if we access 20%? Are we are we going to be dealing with the same issues that we're dealing with? Likely not, because um, uh, 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 um, solving cancer, curing cancer will be a very evident thing for anyone. Anybody would be able to self cure, because right now people are curing themselves of cancer with that 10% of their brain power. If you want to know more, check out Joe Dispenza and the work that he's doing with quantum physics and neuroscience. It is fantastic. If one day I can go to one of his camps, that's one of my dreams, to be able to go to one of his retreats and practice and do all these things with those people. One day I'll do that and I'll report back. But they use the brain power to create. So now I'm telling you that your little 10% brain can create miracles for you if you chose to utilize it and not let it utilize you. Because please remember, I'm going to do my little School of Superpower thing. Your brain is a computer. So the computer does not run itself. Your consciousness runs the computer. So for a lot of us, our brain fires up and down by itself. It does whatever it wants all the time, all the time, all the time. We have no control over our brain. We are actually slaves of our brains. We are actually victims of our thoughts because we don't know how to control our minds. Joe Dispenza tells you you can, right? The way we're looking at these things, we recognize, hey, maybe my brain can move mountains for real. Quantum physics already proved that a human energy can move water. So yes, we can move mountains with our energy. But let's not get into that, guys. This is a whole scientific topic that I do know a lot about and that one day we will talk about, but this is not what this is for today. Okay? So this is the power of the brain. So now let's go into storytelling. I was telling you that as a typical Haitian girl, I would always go back to nature because nature helps us understand ourselves because we truly do behave exactly like animals, is what I'm trying to say. I do believe that aliens, people, or entities that are more evolved, because I'm just thinking that aliens are more evolved than us, but maybe not, but right? They don't have so much similarity with animals than we do because we are like animals and then us. In a million years, we'll be more evolved and then we'll be farther away from an animal and then we'll behave in a less predictable way. So I'm going to give you three animals. The opossum, okay? The art of playing possum. You're going to recognize yourself or somebody else in it. Sisiwo, thank you for being here. The opossum strategy. When faced with a predator, do you know what an opossum does? The craziest, most cringiest thing. The opossum famously plays possum. What does that mean? So it feigns death, it goes limp, it starts drooling, and it starts even emitting foul odor. So meaning it's like farting and things like that. This is dramatic. This is the dramatic freeze response that the opossum uses to divert the threat. It plays dead. Exactly, Brad. Opossum plays dead, but plays dead in a very unattractive way. Like you're dead, but I don't even want to eat you because you're drooling, you're limp, you smell bad. To push the person away. What do humans do? This mirrors how fear can sometimes lead to paralysis or avoidance in humans, right? I'm avoiding, I'm just hiding. We shut down, we avoid situations, we're feeling unable to act, and we stay stuck. This is like a form of learned helplessness where we feel powerless to change a situation. Again, I'm sorry, my avoider friends, that's what y'all do. You play possum. You go and you act like nobody wants me, I'm undesirable, I'm unlovable, because this is a way for you to protect yourself. But then the possum doesn't sit here spending its whole life doing that. That's the difference between the possum and us. The moment that after they try to appear dead, the opossum deters the predator that way, and once the threat passes, it revives and escapes. It says, "Oh, I'm not dead anymore." But here's how we do it as humans. In humans, it's important to recognize when we're playing opossum emotionally. While sometimes a brief pause can be helpful, like a brief taking a step back, right? Prolonged avoidance can be detrimental. So a lot of people stay in the opossum phase all the time. You understand? So now it becomes persistent. Remember what I said, debilitating, persistent? Now it becomes persistent. So you're persistently acting like a possum when there's no threat in reality, because this becomes your default mode of being. So we need to find ways to revive. We need to find a way to wake up. Oh, there's no more threat. I can move on now. So for that, we have to mindfully wake our minds. Okay, I open my eyes. I'm a possum. I open my eyes and nothing is happening. Okay. Ooh, let me take a deep breath. This is mindfulness exercises. Let me take a deep breath. Let me do physical exercises. It helps me feel better about myself. Let me make some movements. Let me start regaining control of my body. Let me start slowly crawling, slowly walking, and then running and sprinting and living my life. But a lot of us play possum, and we play possum for a long time, and we play dead and we stay dead. So you see how the possum does that. Imagine if every time you went out on your balcony, you saw a possum playing dead, you would be like, what's happening with the world? The possum needs therapy. The possum needs therapy. If you're sitting here playing dead, the sun is bright, nobody cares about you, nobody's watching you, but you're acting dead. Okay? Okay, you get it? You get it? Okay. Then there's the rabbit. Okay? Speedy evasion alertness. What's the rabbit strategy? First of all, the rabbit is a prey, right? So the rabbit is always, somebody's always trying to eat the rabbit, right? So the rabbit is constantly vigilant. You know, people who are like rabbits, they always feel like they have a chip on their shoulder. Please start identifying possums in your lives. Now we're going to identify the rabbits. Always feel like something's happening. They rely on their speed and agility to escape danger. Okay, guess who's the rabbit, guys? And Chrissy's a big rabbit. And Chrissy has all sorts of escape plans at all times. I am good at escaping, at running. Even in Haiti, one time, we went to a riot and they shot at the crowd that I was in. And I ran so fast, I jumped over a fence by myself. Like I just jumped over a fence. That's what that fear thing does. So I was a rabbit that day. Can I be acting like this all the time? Now you kind of look cray-cray, right? So, and again, this is not a judgmental. This is just me trying to be funny, okay? Nobody's crazy, okay? So the rabbit, as a prey animal, they're constantly vigilant. They rely on their speed, agility, and keen senses to escape danger. They dart in zigzag patterns to confuse predators and quickly retreat to their burrows. So like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm here, I'm there, I'm here, I'm there, I'm here. They do all this because they're trying to run away, because they're trying to protect themselves, right? What about the humans? This reflects how fear can manifest as anxiety and hypervigilance in humans. Didn't I just tell you that I discovered that I had anxiety? And now, parallel to that, I'm telling you that I feel like I'm kind of a rabbit. And look at how they identify that a rabbit demonstrates anxiety and hypervigilance. These things don't lie. Math doesn't lie. This is a math exercise we're doing. We're just connecting little dots. It doesn't lie. I told y'all I had anxiety, and I'm telling you that I'm connecting with a rabbit, and a rabbit, its thing is about anxiety. Okay, so the zigzag pattern mirrors how we might try to evade difficult situations, sometimes making our path more complicated. Yes, I do that. And a lot of you guys do that too. A lot of you guys are rabbits, running away, running away, running away, running away. And a lot of you guys are possums, playing dead, playing dead, playing dead, playing dead. And oftentimes a rabbit and a possum, they get into a relationship, by the way. Okay, that's another story. Okay, they do get in relationships, those two people. Okay, so we can learn from the rabbit's alertness. It's good that the rabbit has this vigilance, is able, because anxiety is something that protects you as well, but it's recurring, persistent anxiety that is the problem. But anxiety is good. Like if you're doing like a test and you're worried about the outcome, and that gives you a little push to move forward. Yeah, I was telling my son, I want you to have a little bit more anxiety. He says, "Oh, mom, anxiety is a bad thing." I said, "No, if you're utilizing it for the wrong reasons, then it's wrong." But you need a little bit of stress and a little bit of anxiety when you're in an exam, because that's what pushes you to the limit. You need that extra adrenaline, because the moment you have that feeling, it creates a chemical compound in your body, injects in your body, in your bloodstream and in your tissues and in everything, and your body gets supercharged with something. Okay? In this case, anxiety. So learning to set healthy boundaries can help avoid the feeling of constantly having to flee. Because if the rabbit felt safer, created a safer space for it, it would not feel the need to constantly try to evade. One of the things that a rabbit could do, one of the things that y'all who are rabbits can do, is deep breathing. But nobody wants to do deep breathing when you're freaking anxious. You just want to remain anxious, but that's why you need to do the deep breathing, right? Deep breathing, meditation, and exercise can help calm your nervous system and prevent you from being in a constant state of alertness. So again, I'm giving you tools, guys. I'm telling you, deep breathing is going to be good for people who have anxiety. Yes, you can take a medication. Your medication is there for a reason. But if you're into the path of self-healing, whether you're taking medication or not, I think everybody should be in the path of self-healing. I truly believe in our ability to heal our own selves. I have many stories where I believe I healed myself with my own energy. We'll talk about that at a different time. So when you know these things, you know that you can utilize them for a specific purpose. So now you're not just gonna, oh, let me go deep breathing and I don't know why I'm doing it. No, I'm doing deep breathing because I have rabbit tendencies and I need to chill out and I need to feel safer. And so in order to feel safer, I'm going to utilize those tools that we spoke about at the School of Superpowers in the No Filter show, right? And then the last one, the fawn. The fawn, camouflage and stillness. Young fawns, when they're threatened, they instinctively lie still and rely on their spotted camouflage to blend into their surroundings. They reduce their heart rate, becoming almost undetectable. A form of hiding, right? So to illustrate how fear can lead to passivity and withdrawal, this is when you're completely passive. So you're not trying to play, because the possum plays dead, but it's trying to be repulsive. This one is camouflage. So it's there, but it's not. Like you cannot even see it. So it's hiding in plain sight. This is how these are people who are passive and who are people who are passive, right? And who practice withdrawal. So we might try to become invisible, hoping the threat will pass if we don't draw attention to ourselves. This can be a common response to trauma or feeling overwhelmed. People putting their head in the sand, right? So by remaining camouflaged, fawns avoid detection until their mother returns or the danger passes. But humans can stay in that camouflage state for a long time and they become somebody that they're not. Okay, I'm going to give you an example of somebody who can be a camouflage. I'm afraid of being myself. I'm afraid of people seeing me for who I am. So if I walk into a group and people talk a certain way, I'm going to start talking a certain way too, so I can just blend in. Because the moment I'm myself, I'm going to stand out. People are going to notice, and that's not a good thing. So now let me play the game. If I'm somewhere, everybody's talking about cars because they love cars. Okay, I'm going to talk about cars because I'm just going to right. If somebody's here is talking about the stock exchange, all of a sudden I'm a stock trader too, and I'm talking about stocks because I'm afraid of showing who I really am and what really matters to me. I rather stay in a camouflage state. I rather pretend. So this is a coping mechanism. Now, is it necessary sometimes to do that? Yeah. You can be in a social situation, where you kind of have to play along to get along. But if this becomes your own identity and it becomes persistent, then that is a problem that needs to be addressed, right? So yes, stillness can be a temporary coping mechanism, but prolonged passivity can prevent us from addressing our fears, right? So it's important to develop a sense of safety and self-compassion so we can gradually emerge from our hiding place. This might involve building a support system, practicing self-care, or seeking therapy to process that trauma. You see? So we looked at three different animals. And you guys can already see, you can see the animal and you see yourself in the animal. So that tells you two things. We are too close to animals. We are at the beginning of our evolution. We need to continue learning and growing. Not that animals are bad, but then we are not animals because we have the power of choice. We have a voice. So we have the ability to move forward. Plus, we're only using 10% of our brain. So we have nine other ways that we can transform our lives into something completely different from what it is today, if we allow ourselves to think that way. But if we stay in that limited setting that, okay, this is life and this is what it is and this is what it's always going to be and nothing is ever going to work for me and da da da, then we are depriving the world. Well, first of all, we're depriving ourselves of a better future, but we're depriving the world of its evolution because you are part of it. So don't be a fawn. Don't be a rabbit. Don't play the possum. Use them as tactics. Use them as defense mechanisms. Yes, but you cannot be in that state constantly. You cannot wake up and you wake up as a possum, meaning you're pushing people away because you're afraid, right? So you're pushing people away. You're completely unattractive. I know some women do that. They put themselves completely unattractive because they're insecure, they're fearful. So they rather look unattractive to just kind of be like, well, this is how it is. I don't need to make an effort, right? Oh, who cares about all these other people? You see how far I'm going with this? Or who cares about all these other people? Oh, these girls are fake. Oh, they're wearing makeup. They're doing this. They're doing that. So you're going through all this because in reality, you're trying to hide yourself. You're playing possum. You're acting. You're drooling. You're looking cray cray. You smell bad. This is what the possum is doing. And then this is what we're doing too, as a way to cope with things that are uncomfortable, with our own fears of being seen. Rabbit, same thing. The rabbit is on Christy. I know all ways to escape a situation. I am a master escaper. Christine, yeah. Brad, let's not drop names. Yeah, I'm a master escaper. A rabbit. But a rabbit is constantly anxious because it's constantly thinking somebody's after them when nobody gives up. Nobody's even looking at you. A lot of times nobody's even, there's no threat to me. But then me, I feel like I have to do all that. And then finally, the fawn, all of the people who are fake, who are hiding who they really are and playing a role because they're afraid of being seen. All these things. So now I know we're past the time, but I know I finish about 10:15, so I have another 10-15 minutes. I had a story I wanted to tell you guys, but I'm going to keep it for next week. I have a couple stories of people who have overcome fear, but I thought about it, but I'm like, there's so many movies showing people overcoming fear. There's a Rocky story. There's just Hollywood has made so many movies to show those things. But what Hollywood has not done is to talk about those small fears like this. Fears that we don't think is a big deal, so we keep living in it and tolerating it in our lives, but then it's slowly mining our lives and destroying it piece by piece. It's like an alcoholic, right? You have the raging alcoholic who makes this big transformation. You're like, oh my God, but that's not me. But yet you are a functional alcoholic. So you still have the same problem. It's impacting your life at a lesser impact, but it's going to take longer to get the same impact as the other person, right? But it's still something that is destroying your life. We're talking about people who deal with those coping mechanisms and those fears, but have made it acceptable. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal that I'm a rabbit. I'm always anxious anyway. Oh, I'm the girl who goes along with anything anyway. Nobody wants me out. I'm unattractive anyway. That's the possum, right? So these are so small. But us, yeah, we have a lot of alcoholics, right? But there's more of other people than simply alcoholics. So now we don't identify as necessarily an alcoholic, a meth addict, or whatever. So we think we are safe, but in reality, we're not, because we're dealing with those micro problems that are slowly. It's like you have a building, a big, beautiful house, and every day they take a little rock away from it. Eventually, it's going to crumble. So this is what we're talking about, right? We're talking about those kind of problems. I want you to unearth one of them and decide, you know what, let me face it. So now I'm going to share with you this story about this guy named Louis Zamperini. He was an Italian immigrant, and he had a really horrible but great story at the same time. But these are big stories of overcoming. We'll talk about those next week. I'll have a guest, and then we'll dive deeper into those. So I don't want to go through that now. What I want to do now is, what can we do, right? We spoke about all these things, but guys, I'm going to tell you something. I know that it would have been easier if I just gave you a magic bullet and told you, hey, just eat that and you'll be fine. But in reality, I'm going to say things that are uncomfortable, that you're going to have to do more that you don't necessarily want to do, right? So when I tell you, you need to do a mindset shift, that's kind of not sexy, but that's really what it's going to require. Remember, I spoke to you about Joe Dispenza. I'm telling you that people are curing themselves of cancer. This is not fake. Like, you can research it. I'm not like making things up. Like, these are research that have been documented, that people are curing themselves. People who couldn't see can see. What crazy is people who couldn't hear can hear because of the power of their minds. And now I'm telling you, hey, mindset shift. So I'm sending you back to that little 10% of your brain that you're currently using. Just that little 10% can change your life. And we have not even tackled the other ones. I know David Goggins went deep and he went into this 70% thing. He said he was able to reach 70%. Check out David Goggins. I mean, I'm super madly obsessed with this guy, with what he does and how he is and the transformation he has through his life. So he has a really great story. If you've never read his book, please go ahead and read it. But he talks about the mind a lot as well. So mindset shift. So guys, I know it's probably not what you want to hear, but let's spend some time here. Challenge negative thoughts and beliefs. Remember I told you I had a challenge with my son where I'm saying, okay, I'm going to really practice not saying the wrong things. I already failed that challenge all day long, but I'm still going to continue, and I'm going to try tomorrow, because it's about you challenging yourself through not have those negative thoughts, or not continue or encourage those negative thoughts and beliefs. Practicing gratitude. I gave that as homework to one of my students this week. Practice gratitude and positive affirmations, and also one of my friends too. Practice gratitude and positive affirmations. Fake it till you make it. So say it out loud. Say good things to yourself. I know it's creepy, but it's better than the negative narration you have in your mind, the negative self-talk that you have. I hate myself. I'm so ugly. Well, why did I do that? I'm never going to be good enough. I know I ain't shit. Look at you. And you say all these things to yourself. I know I do. And I know y'all do too. So now I'm telling you, hey, I see it inside your brain. I know you're doing that to yourself. And I'm challenging you. Instead of, as a matter of fact, continue speaking that way to yourself. But what you can do that's going to be easy is start by practicing gratitude. Find 3 things you're grateful for every day. You're going to realize how soon your negative thoughts is going to subside, and then the positive is going to grow. I found that for me, it's easy. I don't do cold turkey stuff. So I found that for me, gradual changes are always better. So I invite you guys to do gradual. But if you can do it like from one day to the next, go for it. More power to you, sister or brother. So practice gratitude and positive affirmations, and then focus on what you can control. Every time you're in front of a situation, you say, is that something I can control? Something I cannot control? And reposition yourself in that equation. Reposition yourself in that equation. Some things are not up to you. Some things are not up to you. Some things are up to other people. Focus on what you can control. Another thing, build resilience. So that's another one, right? Guys, we got to go to the gym. We got to work out. We got to work out our muscles. If you want to have a certain body type, you know you have to lift those weights. If you didn't know, now I'm telling you. Diet alone cannot give you the body that you want. You have to work your muscle, meaning you have to find a resistance, and you have to work against that resistance to have a result. So I'm saying resilience, develop coping mechanisms for stress and anxiety. So I'm having a little routine now to help me with my anxiety and my stress. And you know what it is that I found out? And I'll share with this. I'll start sharing on the School of Superpowers as well. This specific thing. I'm doing a lot of heart opening exercises these days. So now I'm intentionally watching YouTube videos that make me cry instead of watching a serial killer or show that I love to watch, a cop show where 20,000 people were murdered. Okay. And cause is that really what your nervous system needs at 10 p.m. at night? Is that helping you in any way? Or I'm watching the news and it's like 10:30 at night and I'm stressed out, but then I'm watching it. Take care of yourself, understand what it is that you need. So now here we're saying develop coping mechanism for stress and anxiety. Be intentional. Is it that I'm a tea drinker now? One of my friends, he works out a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. His workout is his thing. Teas are my thing. I drink a lot of teas, and for me, it's teas and vitamins. If I do teas, vitamins, and water, that changes a lot for me already. And now I'm adding more things. But you see how these things are intentional because nobody's going to come to save you guys. Like YouTube is not going to say, oh my God, y'all are so depressed. Let me give you this. TikTok is not going to say, oh my God, you're so anxious, Anne Christie. Let me give you something to soothe your anxiety. No, it's going to continue feeding me because it's a machine. Nothing is controlling it. Remember, I said the mind is just a machine. Your consciousness is what controls your mind. So the moment that you can start, if it's a word that is just going over your head, don't worry. We'll have a chance to talk about all these things. I'm just trying to at least make you aware that your brain should not control you. So if it's controlling you, it's like a computer that has a virus that's doing its own thing. Imagine you opened your laptop one day and your laptop was sending out emails on your behalf, responding to messages on your behalf. That's crazy. Well, now guess what? AI can do that, but at least AI, you tell it what to do. So your consciousness is controlling it. Okay. Learn from setbacks and failures. That's a hard one, right? Who wants to sit down and look at how much they failed, how much they bombed? Because again, we have a thing. We always want to look good. Looking good is like the thing. Who taught us that? Who taught us that we needed to look good and perfect all the time? That's crazy. Who taught us that that was the thing? That we could not be like failing was the people who Michael Jordan said that. He says, you guys are looking at how much I won, but I failed more times than I won. But because I played so much and I stayed in the game, that's why I'm so great. But we only see the good. And we're like, oh, the good. You remember I was telling you about my friend, the toxic positivity? You only look at the good. When the bad happens, oh, don't look, don't look, don't look. Oh, don't look. So we don't have a good relationship with our failures. So now what we're saying is, hey, sit back and let's sit and talk about that shit. I'm sorry, it's past tense, so I can say that, right? Let's sit down, be in that murky water for a little bit. I didn't tell you the story of the lotus yet, who lives, a lotus, which is one of the most beautiful flowers. You know where a lotus comes from? A pile of mud, dirty mud. And you see this beautiful white lotus with beautiful petal flowers. And you're like, oh my God. Same thing as a phoenix. Everything is connected, guys. All of it is connected. If I had more time, I would show you how everything in this world is connected. Everything is inside of something. Everything is part of something, okay? Until you get to innovation and you're creating something new. Okay. Cultivate self-compassion. Now, sometimes I talk to myself and I say, hey, baby, how you feeling? You see how you want that man to talk to you? Oh, baby, hey, lover, hey, talk to yourself that way. You see how you want your girlfriend to be like, hey, king, oh, hey, handsome. Talk to yourself that way. Look at yourself and be like, hey, handsome, hey, beautiful, hey, king. Learn to speak to yourself in a different way, intentionally. Who cares? Oh, people are going to think I'm crazy. Who cares? Nobody cares. People don't even be studying you like that anyway. People who study you like that is because they are avoiding themselves. So you should tell them, hey, you know, you're probably avoiding something in your life. That's what you're all up in my business like that. That's typically what it is. So they need compassion, but then you do too. So cultivate self-compassion. Let's start by working with not treating ourselves like, let's treat ourselves the way we would love to treat our children. But now, when we don't have those things fixed inside of us, we invariably hurt our children. But the children know that, and I always prepare the kids for that. I prepare my son for that. I said, please don't be thinking I'm perfect now, because you're gonna wake up in a world of trouble. This is me doing my best. I'm gonna continue doing my best, but I want you to start developing your discernment. If you see that I'm stepping out of bound, you have to be able to identify that, because you have your own mind. So now he always knows when I'm on my period. By the way, okay. He says, "Oh, mom, something's happening right now. Is it the time of the month?" And I'm like, "Yes, exactly, right." Um, so we said building resilience. The next thing, cultivate faith, prayer, meditation, mindfulness practices. These are all the things that help you control that mind, that help you control the narrative, that help you gain control. This is what gives you the superpower, is those exercises by cultivating faith, prayer, meditation, mindfulness practices. Connect with a supportive group of people. I recognize how I tend to be an isolated person, meaning when I deal with myself, I deal with myself on my own. And I had a friend kind of bust in on me today, and I was able to share. And I remembered how, man, I'm constantly not sharing what's really going on with me. But the moment that I do and I get connected and I feel heard and understood, ooh, I feel like a world like just lifted off of me. So I invite you to identify the people, because you might be so surprised at the level of support that you get from people, the right people. Like Rihanna said, not everybody deserves to know your story, but you can identify the people who do. Okay? Reflect on past experiences of overcoming fear. I always tell my son, look at where you look at a place where you overcame fear, and recognize that it's just a repeat of the same. It's always the same. If you've done it in the past, you can do it again. So it's just a repeat. And that actually calms you down and helps you get there, right? And then finally, a few action steps, right? So take small steps outside of your comfort zone. Set realistic goals and celebrate your progress. Visualize a future filled with faith and confidence. So, this is where I invite you to be really aware of the fact that your brain is only, again, you're only using 10% of it. So, now I invite you to imagine the possibilities for each one of you. If I was able to if I ended up accessing my brain, because we can. We just have to allow our minds and our imagination to get there, because I'm sure that 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, we were probably using less than 10% of our brains. Okay. So now we're here, we're using 10%. How about if you try to create a world that doesn't yet exist? Imagine if I used my entire brain to create a future. What would that look like? What could that look like? And now you start creating possibilities for yourself. And then your body starts getting acclimated with those possibilities. And again, we spoke about it on the first slide, where I was telling you about the Indians who were seeing La Santa Maria, La Pinta, and La Nina come on the shores of Hispaniola when Christopher Columbus decided to discover Haiti for himself, and how they were not able to even identify the boat until weeks later, because their brain had informed that this thing was a possibility, that it could exist, a huge vessel, a ship on water. If you cannot imagine something, it doesn't exist. So try to imagine the things that you want to exist. So now when we talk about fear, fear is something, again, we're we're afraid of, it's a tension that's holding us back. But what we're saying is, hey, whatever fear you have, you don't erase it, but you do what you need to do despite the fear. Okay? So I could go on and on, but this is really what I have for you. I really hope that you gained something from this. If not, if even if not anything, just maybe more understanding of what fear really means in your life, and how you can start at least identifying it. And that's what we're here to do. We did not go to school for those things, because when we went to school, we were doing ABC 1, 2, 3. We were doing algebra, calculus, history, geography, things like that. But they did not teach us self mastery. They did not teach us anything about ourselves, anything about self healing, anything about self mastery, about self control. I think they only did self control in kindergarten, but the only thing you were required to do is to sit still and to act like they wanted you to act. Because the moment that the child acts outside of the of the bell curve, the 80% 2020, 80% 10-10, right? The moment that you're an outlier, you're a problem. So they were forcing everyone to act a certain way, but still they did a little bit of self-control to teach the kids how to have self-control, but really so that they could control the kids. It's not so that the kids can control themselves. So you see the whole problem we have with this education system. That's why the school of superpowers is there. So now we have an hour and a half to talk about something like fear. I actually wrote a book about fear and anger, it's just not published yet, but anyway, it's a kid's book, again, to teach kids how to embrace their fears and how to embrace their anger, right? So, but here we're talking about fear and to how to embrace your fear. And then once you embrace the fear, it doesn't, in Haiti, they say, tout ça pas connaît puis grand pas. So everything that you don't know is bigger than you until you get to know him, right? Something is difficult until you're learning and it's no longer difficult, right? So that's what we're talking about here. We're debunking a word that's holding a lot of us hostage, who's holding a lot of us in pain, and then how do we overcome and still live our lives despite the fear? But right now we are prisoners of our fear, and our fear is holding us back, right? So that's really what I have for you today. I want to share my links, right? In case you guys want to have a conversation, right? Again, we can go deep into those things. So I can go ahead and have those conversations with you guys. And if you want to go deep on some things, if you want to understand, we spoke a lot about Pluto, the planet Pluto last show, and how Pluto is likely affecting your life right now, and you probably don't even know why a part of your life is being destroyed right now. Everybody's going to go through a huge destruction of something in their life, an area of their lives, because Pluto is there to renew this side of your life. If you want to talk about that, you can book a call. I've done that for a few people already with the birth charts and everything. It's really fun, and I really enjoy doing that. But also, again, if you want to dig deep into any other topic, please feel free to do so. My website is theschoolofsuperpowers.com. This is where you're going to find my booking a consultation link. This is where you're going to find my course on finding your purpose for the people who are still lost and don't know what the F they're here to do. They are here, but they're like, what am I supposed to do, right? I have no meaning in my life. Well, I created a course to help people find their purpose, so you can find that there as well. And of course, if you're feeling generous, you can always support the School of Superpowers with sharing the video, posting a comment, posting a like, sending a Facebook stars, sending a Zelle donation, anything you want. Show us love, show us a comment, share the live with somebody that you think might want to benefit from it, and things like that. Okay, so I was really, really, really happy that I was here with you. I promise you that I'm working on another show, hopefully next week, where I bring a guest so we can go deeper into fear. I don't want those big fear overcoming stories, because Hollywood has exhausted those topics. I want something that is a little bit less extravagant. That way we can learn from it. How did you overcome fear, going through an exam, or starting a new relationship, or starting a new job, or starting a new business, or dealing with a health scare, right? All these things can be really, really, debilitating, right? So that's all I had for you guys. I absolutely love you. I absolutely love and cherish those moments, because I feel like, no, this is my purpose. This is really what I want to do, is to do anything that I can do to help humanity evolve and grow. And if I have impacted anyone today, my job is done. I am happy. It means that it means I'm doing a good job. It means that I can continue. So I'm hoping that somebody found something in this video that that will impact their lives in a different way. Okay? So thank you so much, guys. And then I'll see you next week. Have a good night. Ciao, ciao.